So let me do a quick introduction. Um, so some of you, a lot of you know Wizer, you know me, but there's a team behind Wizer, and Amy is one of them. She's part of the marketing team, and the way we met Lisa is when we do a lot of stories about scams and victims, and Lisa is a private investigator, so we contacted her about stories. And then out of the blue, she told us about her story, which was scary, really. It was very, very scary. It took me off guard. Um, and we created a short version that we shared on LinkedIn. And I was so happy when Lisa accepted to talk on this live and to tell the full story, because I think it's really important to hear the entire story. What we put on LinkedIn was just 1 minute, I think, but there is so much more to it. And I really hope that um, all of you will benefit from hearing this and knowing what to do. Um, so yeah, Amy, do you want to say anything before we start?
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction. It's so great to be here. Lisa, thank you so much for being here as well. I think we'll just get right into it. So for those of you who haven't watched the video, the partial or the full, Lisa, can you share from the beginning, like the beginning of the story?
Sure. I'm a mom of girls, and I went in every morning. And I still check on them. Um, I've always checked on them every morning to make sure, they're there and they're breathing. So like every other morning I went in and check on her, and at that time she was 13, was gone. At that point I was like, maybe she's in the bathroom, maybe. So I looked all over and she was nowhere in the house. So I woke up her sister and I asked her where, her sister was. And she got out of bed. She went to the closet and grabbed a backpack and said, I wouldn't let her take this. And she told me that she had went out her bedroom window.
In the middle of the night.
It still breaks my heart talking that her younger sister had this backpack. I wouldn't let her take it. So I think she had some guilt because she watched her sister. But as sister code, you don't tell on the sister.
Always.
So,
and how old was she back then? We're talking about like 3 years, right? Ago.
2 years.
Like
so yeah, about 2.5 years. Yeah. So she was 13 when she hopped out the window. So her little sister was 11.
Gosh.
Wow. So every time you tell that portion of the story, no matter how many times I hear it, I always just get like dread and like goosebumps and like you know what I mean? Because it's just like, I can't even imagine the dread that you felt as a mother, as a parent, waking up and being like, my daughter is gone. And like, not like, oh, she just like left to go out to a party, but like she's gone.
Middle of the night, had a bag packed and everything.
Yeah.
So what did you do next?
What happened?
Kid is not in your room, like you're probably freaking out.
Yeah. So aside from, I'm pretty close with my girls. I know their friends. So I was texting their friends' moms, like, where is she? And then like, well, she went out the window, a boy from Snapchat. So I called the police. They came and they did a report. And then it was social media. It was the Facebook post.
Yeah, you sent out a missing person post, right? And it was shared by like thousands of people.
Yeah.
Within like hours.
It was crazy. Because it was, it was family. I have a lot of family in that area, and then their friends and their friends. And so it spread really quick.
What I find interesting, I was having this conversation with my husband last night, is that it's like, you have in this story, there's two examples of social media. Like it's almost like the angel and the devil, right? You see how social media can be a devil, but you see how social media can be that angel too. And I find that so fascinating, right?
That's true. Within this one story, it's a horrible, but
horrible story.
It helps solve it as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So the missing person, you posted on Facebook. It was shared by thousands. What happened next?
So what all we can assume is that he saw it. Um, so I don't know. It was in San Francisco.
Okay.
So at
By the
that
way,
point,
have you ever heard about him before? About this kid from Snapchat? You
no,
never
never heard
knew?
his name. Never heard his name. Um, so because I'm from the Bay Area and families there, it was spread all over, and he actually brought her to the Bay Area. Which
So, yes.
it was a benefit because I think he saw it and he ended up putting her in a car, some abandoned car in San Francisco. And he's like, I'll be right back. And he left her.
For how long?
Oh, yeah.
She called me about 5 hours later.
Wow. So
No
she like
food.
really thought like he's not
She-
gonna leave me.
Yeah, because I think these boys are telling these girls, "Oh, I really like you. We're going to be together. Run
Yeah.
away with me. Your mom is horrible. Your family's horrible." And then, gets in their head at 13, yeah, your parents are horrible. They're supposed to be. And so
Yeah.
I think she was really waiting for him to come back. And so 5 hours, no food, no water, no bathroom. Um,
And she disconnected her GPS, right? And all of that when she
yeah.
left.
I have GPS on my kids' phones and she turned it off.
And did he
Wow.
did the boy tell her to turn it off, or did she just, like
I
let
don't
it?
know. I'm assuming when she hopped out the window, she turned
Gotcha.
it off.
Which
So for
I
all of
think
those that are, yeah, that think that, we can just track our kids, it's that easy to turn things off
Hmm.
because people think about kidnap as, like you grab somebody and you push them into a car, but it doesn't, many times it's just somebody you know.
Yeah, and this was, a kid that she met, and at that time I didn't know it was a 17-year-old boy. I assumed it was, someone older.
And how did her friends that told you about him, like, did she tell them beforehand she's going with him, or was she sort of like in a relationship with him on Snapchat and they assumed that it's him?
They knew it was him, so I think there
Okay.
was, a Snapchat relationship, if that's a thing for
Okay.
kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is a thing. So
Yeah.
they knew who it was. So I was able to I looked up his profile on Snapchat, and then a database that I have, I can see where people log in to their social media. Um, so he wasn't active at that time, so that didn't help. But it was good that I could see like where he had been.
This was like an abandoned place, right? Like it was like in the middle of nowhere from what I remember.
Yeah, it was just some abandoned car in some, not nice neighborhood of San Francisco.
so.
Gosh.
Lisa, we there's a lot of comments that I know you've gotten and that we've seen that say like, well, why weren't you monitoring your social media accounts or better? And I think I
Mhm.
liked what you said in the past that was like, and Gabby, you said this too. It's like it's so easy for our kids to bypass parental controls. Um, and you actually had a great response to people's negative trolling comments. Can you
Mhm.
share that response?
I mean, which one it was? I mean, for one, we can monitor our kids'
Yeah.
phones, or we can say you can't. Well, you can even go to the extreme of you don't have a phone. Go to school. Well, guess what's at school? Everyone has a phone, so
Yeah.
you can go on and or I'm going to monitor the Snapchat and Facebook. Well, a lot of times they're just going to create other ones that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And you're
Um,
creating that frustration. So they are being rebels and they're looking for ways
right,
to, yeah, it's
right.
not that
So
they're,
my thing, I think the biggest thing was as a parent, I was, constantly lecturing, and there's bad people, there's bad people, there's bad people, and I wasn't listening. There were clues that I was missing because I'm the parent and this is how it is and people are bad. And so even though I'm very open with my girls, I was missing things because I was preaching and not listening.
Yeah. And I think also like oftentimes, these kids are smarter than we are at social media and at tech. They know the latest, versions of Instagram. They know how to get things by us. I
Hmm.
mean, Gabby, you're cybersecurity, you're tech, and
yeah.
I'm sure if his girls wanted to, they could do the same thing too. But um, you know, it doesn't matter who you are, right, Gabby? We've talked about this before. It doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States or a cop or whatever. Like, not everyone can be monitoring their kids at all times.
I was almost embarrassed. I'm a private investigator, and I had to call the police. I mean, out of everyone, I should have known. I should have been aware. But, you know, I'm not always a private investigator. At home, I'm mom.
Yes, exactly.
And I shut that part down.
So there's a question here, like what were the clues that, you know, you could have picked up looking back?
Oh, good question.
So listening to her and her sister talk more. Or if we're driving and they, you know, say a name and then giggle, I should have been like, okay, why are they giggling to that name? And not maybe like question who is that and what is that, but pay attention. I think, you know, she packed a bag. At some point, she also did her laundry.
Gotcha.
Maybe did her hair. Maybe that night, it was planned.
Yeah.
And so I think I should have listened, again, like in the car, because when we're in the car, you know, they talk freely. It's like a weird safe space that I've accidentally created with our safe stuff. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, stop. I don't want to know all your friends and all their drama. But I think just listening to them talk freely, I should have been more in tune.
Yeah.
I think it's similar, you know, how we asked them, how was school today? Like, how was online today? It's almost like the same thing, right? We're in our virtual world. We shouldn't care only about their friends in the physical world. We should care about, you know, who are your friends in the virtual world? Who do you know? You know, being interested in that, because sometimes we just, you know, don't talk about those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And oftentimes they have more kids online than they have in person.
Yeah. It's, you know, and adults get scammed all the time online. So why are we not talking to the kids about scams as well as teenagers luring teenagers? It's not always the big older, you know, in my head, it was the big older man that, you know, took my baby. It was a teenager. So what were his intentions?
Yeah, and I think that brings us to, this wasn't just like your ordinary teenager runs away with boyfriend story. Can you share what you actually thought was going on here?
I 100% believe it was supposed to be sex trafficking. And that's why he abandoned her. And I think also what I said before was that they came back for her.
Yeah, yes. Let's talk about that for a second, because that freaked me out. You know,
I know it's still, like, I mean, I mentioned it, you know, a little while ago, and it gives me goosebumps. So when she came back, I immediately, something in my gut just told me she can't be around. She can't be home. So I sent her out of state, like immediately. So a couple days after that, I was, you know, in the backyard and looking at the window, and it didn't look right. So I walked over to it, and there were handprint marks that were like smeared. So someone was actually trying to pry her window open.
Gosh.
So I think, you know, in their eyes, she got away. Are they going to tell she's going to tell the police? What's going to happen? So they were coming back for her.
I literally get goosebumps every time you tell that, because I think it just goes to show that these sex traffickers, they're not going to stop. If they know that they have this teenager, this young woman, because I do want to mention sex trafficking happens to babies up through your 20s, and primarily, yes, women, but also men as well, little boys as well. And I think it just goes to show, it's like when they have a hook into these people, into these girls, like they're not going to let it go. They're not going to let it go that easy, because it's such a, I guess, prolific money-making scheme, and it's so prevalent everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, think the fact that a teenager also lured her, I think, you know, it's, and maybe that teenager was a victim himself. We don't know, like, you know, we don't know about, you know, how he came about to
he had no criminal past. Because as a private investigator, I called the police department. I was like, you got to level with me. Like, what am I dealing with here? And they're like, he doesn't have a record. He wasn't this criminal, again, this big, scary older man criminal, you know, it was a kid. And so who knows, maybe he was a victim. Maybe hey, if you find us someone else, we'll let you go, type of a thing.
Yeah. Or even like a kid making quick cash. Maybe he didn't understand it. I mean, not for nothing, 17-year-olds, like, they don't know the whole world, right? Yet
Right.
how it works. And so it's like, he could have thought that this was just a quick way to make some money.
Yeah, go grab this girl and,
Yeah.
promise her the world. We're going to run off together. And and got scared.
So let's talk about what parents can do to protect their kids in the digital world. Like, Lisa, specifically, what would you have done differently? And we touched on this a little bit already, but there was something you said in the video that was amazing.
What was
So you said that you need to listen more and talk less.
Yeah, because again, I was preaching. And the thing is, I've always told them, even if you're at the mall and you like meet some teenage girls or some teenage boys, and they're like, hey, let's go out to the car, or let's go to this other store. It could be a trap. They could be luring. So it was like, I've warned about this. And I think they tuned it out. They're like, Mom's talking again. Is she done talking yet? Should I listen now? I think it was completely tuned out because it wasn't a two-way conversation. It was me preaching instead of listening to, maybe they had questions, or, maybe there were clues that I was missing.
Because I think, the teenager didn't seem like a criminal, like you said at the beginning, so it doesn't feel like something that you're in danger right now. Maybe for her, it was just a short adventure, something that teenagers do. And she wasn't aware. And the thing is that you are an aware mom, just think about all the others that are not talking to their kids about those things, I'm actually, there's another case now, it's still going. And unfortunately, that kid is missing for over a week. It's not an isolated case, and it can hit anyone. It's not about the parents. It's not about. It's really something that can just happen to anyone. I think that's why it's so important what you said about listening more and asking how are things going on your online world. I think that's
right.
Crucial.
And something I learned through this that I didn't really realize is areas where there's a lot of freeways, the sex trafficking is a higher rate because they can hop on. If they have 4 different freeways, they can grab someone and be gone. Which freeway are the cops going to go, look to, try to track people down? And I thought that was interesting that, there's a bunch of freeways in one area, there's higher sex trafficking.
Yeah.
There's another thing you said, we asked you before we started the live. So, how did you feel about her coming back home when you saw, that they tried to open the window? And you said that you moved, right?
It happened so quick. And I guess I forgot that part. This happened in August. We moved September 11th.
Wow.
Because I didn't feel safe there. I had another teenage girl in the home.
And to be honest, this kid probably knew. This teenage boy probably knew, because his sister, your daughter told them, right?
Yeah. My mom is single. It's just me and my sisters here. Which again should probably, shouldn't be told to people. Oh yeah, my mom is single. There's no man here. It's just my mom and some kids.
Yeah, three sisters, 3 girls, all teenagers.
Yeah.
So Gabby, since you come from like the tech cybersecurity side, what else can parents do to keep their kids as safe as possible in this?
I think I think beyond the things, I think the most important thing is what Lisa said. Think about the communication is probably key. You can't just bypass that. But other things you can do that I usually do, I download the apps my kids are using. First of all, I don't allow them to download any app they want. There's an approval process. But again, it's different in the age. Like I can't do that for my 17-year-old, right? Like it's a different type of, he's almost a man, right? 17-year-old. But at the age of like, I would say, some go to the extreme where they don't give their kids access to a phone at all. But I think, like Lisa said, they found ways to work around. That's why that communication is so important. And if you do give them a phone or give them access to social media, it's sort of like there has to be a talk about it. There has to be some approval processes. You do want to download the apps they're using. At early age, I would even ask their passwords. I want to know. I want to be able to log into their apps to see what's going on. There's a lot of parental controls. So even TikTok, you can control as a parent. You can link your account to your kid's account, and there's a lot of things you can do. We actually have some videos about that on our on the Wizer website about different apps. But I think, being aware of what your kids are using, there's so many apps. Like I won't go on right now, but there are apps where you have random people show up on a camera, like random chat, random live chat with people. It's actually very popular. You just, swipe, see another random live person, and then you start talking to them. And like a lot of bad things are happening there. So you have to educate yourself. How can you protect them if you don't educate yourself first? And so that's like, again, we have a lot of material about that on the Wizer website, but beyond talking, which I think is the number one thing, talking and listening and building that. Your kid has to feel comfortable to come to you and talk to you about those things. And it's about a safe environment at home that they know you won't shout at them, So I think those are the like main things. But this can go on for on. Like, there's so many dangerous apps and dangerous things. But I think, like I said, the most important thing I think is what Lisa said. Have this communication.
Yeah, and I want to add something there. I don't even know if Gabby, you know this. I actually used to work for Johnson County Victim Unit when I was like in college. And unfortunately, we had a lot of women who were able to escape sex trafficking. Women, children, mothers with their children. And one of the things that we used to, they used to tell others, just as like an awareness, like for women, again, and men and boys, was make sure that if you, obviously we don't want anyone to be in this situation, but to memorize your parents' phone numbers, your cell phone numbers, because we're in an age where they have no idea it's in their phone, but the first thing that someone's going to take is a phone. So it's like, make sure that you have all of this information memorized so you can contact somebody if you are in not even in a sex trafficking, situation, just a sketchy situation in general, right? So that's, I guess,
And start as, it started at a very early age. Even apps, I don't think a lot of parents realize, but even apps like Roblox, you can chat with strangers. They don't understand that. And they're actually, if you just Google like scams on Roblox, you'll be amazed how many scams are going on. And because there's a marketplace in Roblox. And when a kid loses, one of the items that they built or something they care about, for them emotionally, it's a big thing. So we have Discord, again, it goes back to educate yourself. Don't think that, it's just Roblox. Like ask them, who are you hanging out with on Roblox? How does it work? Can you show me, Just be interested in their life, in their virtual life. I think that matters a lot.
Yeah, and I've always, been very careful with them to teach them safety. So, in the real world, like when they were little, I would like, hey, how do we get home? Do I make a right turn? Do I make a left turn? Yes. I had them memorize our way home. I had them get in the trunk of my car and show them to pull the tab. So I taught them all this like real life stuff. And I missed the online, aside from the preaching, people are bad, don't do that. I missed a chunk of security that I guess I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't online.
Yeah. We don't
Should we take questions, Gabby? Are there any questions? Do we have any questions?
Can you guys see the comments, Lisa? Can you see some of the comments, or only I can see them?
Sort of.
I don't know. Okay, there's a lot
Oh
of things
yeah, I
here.
can see a few of them. Oh wow, we have a lot. Thank you guys for commenting. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. We have a LinkedIn user that said kids are not protected by the schools, and privacy, security, and their schoolwork online is a major issue. Yes, we actually talked about that offline. All three of us.
Because I assumed that the school computers, that they're safe. I assume when my child goes to school, they're safe.
Yes. Someone said, how did you change your and your family's behavior at home after this incident? Which I think we kind of maybe went through, but if there's anything that we left out.
So when she came back after we moved, she didn't have a phone for a while. I had to make sure she understood the danger she was in. And actually, she went directly to my mom's, and while she was there, my mom was like, hey, you know what's really odd is she doesn't want to sleep by the window anymore.
Wow.
So even though she went out willingly, she was still traumatized by the whole experience.
When did she understand? Like it's when you talked to her, she understood what happened, because from what I remember, she was mostly upset that he abandoned her from, if I recall, what we spoke about. When did she understand what actually, what was the risk, what actually happened? It's only when you talk to her?
At that moment, I think she thought like, oh, he really likes me and this is going to be amazing. Who knows what promises, we're being told.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, sitting there for 5 hours, I think it kind of clicked that, oh, so this isn't right. This isn't what I thought.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We have another question, and this is kind of a loaded question, but Joyce, thank you so much for asking it because it is important. Is there a specific age where kids should have social media accounts? I'm going to ask the private investigator and the cybersecurity expert here. I'm out on this.
Okay. You know what? I think a lot of it has to do with maturity. Like my youngest child is more mature than the other to her two older sisters. I think it has to do with maturity and understanding risks. And them willing to be upfront with you. And the rule in my house is, if you're under my roof, your phone that I pay for, it's really my phone. So if at any time I say, hand me your phone, you have to hand me your phone.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think maturity has a big part here. With my kid, it was different ages. And even then, the level of monitoring that I do on each one of my kids is different. Some of them, I monitor closely, and again, and of course, my younger one, she doesn't have, for example, a lot of the social media apps. Even YouTube, I block her. She's got YouTube Kids. But here is the thing. And it goes back to what Lisa said. She's meeting with friends, right? So eventually she hangs out with her friends all day long. So, and they do have YouTube, and they sit down with the iPad, and that's when I'm out of control. So I can only control, what's going on her phone, but I can't actually control what she's exposed to because she's got friends. So I think, everything ties up. I try to limit it, but I'm aware that she's exposed to other things. And I actually talk to her about it, hey, so what do you and him or her watch? Like, what are this type of stuff? So, I guess you don't like the fact that you have YouTube Kids, so what would you like to watch? I ask all type of questions out of curiosity, which creates a conversation. And that's how I learn.
That's great, Gabby. We have I think we'll take maybe one more question. We have a lot of questions in here about schools, about ed tech apps, and personal information they're sharing when they're creating these accounts. Trying to find there's so many. Gabby, we might have to have a whole live just on that. I feel like we can't really touch on this in the next minute or so. Someone did say, though, if you're a parent with kids in middle school, ask your schools to consider the cyber civics curriculum, which is a great idea. Someone asked, how do you keep track of what's happening in your kids' schools? So that's kind of like along the same. Gabby, do we want to go there, or do we want to save that?
I'll just briefly, I have a lot of frustration around that, because when I asked, when I did some cyber hygiene for my kids, and she shared with me the password, forget about it. The password was like, her name and some like class name or something like that. I was like, okay, that sounded bad. How do you come up with that? The teacher gave it to me. Okay, I said, okay, gosh. What about other apps? She said, oh, no. They told us to use it on all apps. So not only it's a simple app, it's a simple password that you can guess for any kid. We're told to use it on every app. And when? Since grade 3. So she was using the same password for like so long. So that's where we are right now at school. And they're doing it because the IT doesn't want to handle, password resets and locking kids out of their account. So they're almost making it impossible for the kids to reset their password. So there's a lot to do, in school, and I hope that will change. That's what we're doing, a lot of those things, and talking to the PTO and stuff like that, I think is very important, because unfortunately the school, again, depends which school you are at. I don't think they're doing enough.
I think also my kids hate it. I am part of like every aspect of their life. I know their friends. I know their friends' parents. My middle schooler, me and the vice principal, we text.
Nice. Yeah.
Because I want to know what's going on.
I think it's something you said before. Yeah, get
in a teacher
involved. Oh, sorry, cut you off.
Oh, I think my froze. So, having the open communication, even at this school, I can walk in there. They're like, hey, you're so-and-so's mom. Yeah. I'm a presence everywhere in their lives, and it bothers them to an extent.
Yeah.
But I think that's amazing. I mean, we even had someone say in comments like how involved it seems that you were with their kids, and like they couldn't even imagine, what a child's like his life, if someone, or what would happen to that child with a parent who wasn't as involved.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Gabby, we're getting so many comments about schools. We might have to have another live just on that. But yeah. I think we're good for this one, talking about this story. If anyone has any other questions, hit up Gabby on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think you can continue to comment. And Lisa, thank you very much. I think, the key takeaway is, guys, our kids live online, not just, at school and in the neighborhood and in friends. And I think if anything, if we created awareness today for people to realize that it can really happen to anyone, and we have to be involved more in what's happening with our kids online, I think that's a win for all of us.
Absolutely. And thank you, Lisa, again for joining us. Thank you, everybody on LinkedIn, for joining us. Spread the word about this, and how to keep our kids safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.